Haven't seen Mini with Tim Sestito and Tommy Devaney. Hello, everybody. Welcome on in. Thank you all so much for listening today. This is a podcast where one of us is watching a movie for the very first time. Today, that's both of us because we're doing a mini episode, a little bite-sized episode. We're trying something new out here to see if people enjoy it, of just maybe some bigger releases coming out. Smaller episodes, maybe 25, 30 minutes of and we're covering today the Fantastic Four First Steps, the newest release that just came out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's the 37th film in the MCU, which is grating. Um, Starring Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic, Vanessa Kirby as Invisible Girl, Invisible Woman, Eben Moss Barak as the Thing, and Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch. I don't think they go by any of their nicknames in the movie. I was just looking at the list of the actors, and I could only remember the nicknames. I couldn't remember their actual like character names at that moment. Reed,
Yeah, I
Reed
think I
Richards.
think they said the thing a few times. I mean,
Yeah, I think they did, but he was like first of all, I think before we go into any spoilers, I want to just do our general like thoughts of it here. So if anybody wants to listen, just get a general idea of if you will enjoy this movie or not, before we maybe discuss it in a little more depth. We're going to start that here, and then we will let you know when we're going to dive deep into spoilers. So I think, Tommy, first of all, how did you just enjoy this film overall?
overall, I'd say I liked this movie. I didn't think it was fantastic. Pun
Oh,
intended, I
good
guess,
pun.
right there. Um, but it had some moments of like good elements. I like Galactus, Silver Surfer. I thought was used effectively. It felt a little rushed at points. I felt like it could have used their powers a little bit more, in general. And the family dynamic was there, but it definitely felt like a movie that was cut out a little bit, and it felt like it just like rushed over some parts here and there.
Yeah.
But overall, decent fun time. So not anything amazing, not anything like blown away. I would say probably in the middle pack of MCU movies in general.
Yeah, this felt like a Marvel movie from 2012, like 2013, like the like kind of those earlier batches of Marvel movies, like introducing a new character versus like the older ones. I will say I felt like you could tell there was some effort put into here versus prior past Marvel efforts had felt a little bit lazy, I would say.
Mm.
Um, I really like the style, the aesthetic of like this 60s futurism. Definitely taking roots from The Incredibles, which I guess was taking roots from the Fantastic Four to begin with. But I
Tailing
mean,
its own tail.
you said that. I had no idea. But I first 5 minutes of the movie, I leaned over to my girlfriend and I said, "Is this just The Incredibles in the beginning?"
Yeah.
They're like it's a listen, it's a fun time. It's a pretty standard Marvel movie, but I agree, like there's a bit like when you see it, you'll get what I mean, but there's a point with one of the characters where it feels like 10 to 15 minutes of like additional background on this character and like their story and their complexions was just completely cut out.
Mm.
Um and it was nice that like everybody kind of had something to do. I really liked that. It felt more like a uh, uh, Sue Storm story. Like she seemed to be the one driving the narrative in a very good way, I felt.
Mm.
But it's very short. It's under 2 hours, which was nice. But it kind of falls victim again to the Marvel third act villain problem that they used to have. But in like a kind of clever way, I like unique way, I guess. Like, but it's very straightforward. You didn't need to watch any TV shows or listen
Well,
to any podcasts or
yeah, there is something to say. You were talking when we said at the beginning, this is like the 36th MCU movie.
37.
37th. And yet, this is the first Marvel movie in a while that felt like standalone. Like, you didn't need to see any of those other previous movies. I mean, they made it clear this takes place on a different Earth than all those other MCU movies. And this is not a
Yeah.
spoiler. This has been a thing from the jump they've been saying from the marketing. So the fact of the point is that you can jump in this movie and like, hey, I like Fantastic Four. I like that shitty Chris Evans movie from 20 years ago.
I
Let me go see this one.
so to cover it, I started that one when I got home last night after seeing the movie, and I got like to the bridge scene, and I was like tired. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not. And like it's just I was like maybe I'll finish it tomorrow, and then we're recording this, and I'm just like I'm never gonna touch that movie again. It was
Yeah.
really really not good. But it was really bad. Um, Chris Evans, funny enough, though, is probably the best part of that movie, and
Yeah.
Jessica Alba, but that's for Jessica Alba reasons. Uh, and yeah,
Where like all they could think to do with the Invisible Woman is like, oh, she gets nude. It's
literally,
Jessica Alba, she
literally
gets nude.
literally in the first
Yeah.
20 minutes, it's a gag with her invisible powers. She takes off all her clothes, and then she's standing on the Brooklyn Bridge, like in her bra and underwear, and I'm just like, man,
They knew
those
what they had.
in the 2000s,
Yeah,
they didn't give
literally.
an F. They could care less about that. But yeah, would let's give our reviews now of the Fantastic Four, and then that'll be a good time to segue into spoiler talk, and people will know if they want to go see this movie to go do it. So, Tommy, give us a score out of five.
Yeah, so off the jump, I'm thinking like a 3.5 out of 5. This was an enjoyable time, but it felt very rushed at points. I wish there was more like time spent on the family, or even more time just like given a big adventure. I mean, like there's some points in the movie that like just very glossed over. I mean, I didn't mind the fact that this didn't have the origin. We didn't need the origin. They were able to quickly go over that, but it still felt like we didn't really see the team too much in action before Galactus came, and Galactus is a villain that maybe it was too high stakes for the first movie in the series. So
I would say, on to your point, not too high stakes, but too standard stakes for Marvel. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it feels like there's 37 of these, at least half of them, the stakes of the movie is that the world is going to end.
Mhm.
And it's just, he just brings that element to the table again, which
Well,
is just not that interesting.
on that point though, I think one of the things about this movie that like made the stakes actually interesting for once in that aspect is like when I'm watching like the Avengers or like any of the normal Marvel movies and the stakes are end of the world, I know that the world's not going to end. I mean, even if Thanos snaps his fingers, I know that eventually in the next movie they're going to bring it
There's
back.
there's too much money for that, my friend.
Yeah. So but in this one, there's a part of me that was thinking when I was going into this, is this movie going to end with the Fantastic Four failing? Their version of Earth gets fucking destroyed and like devoured by
Okay, well
Galactus.
now we're delving into spoilers here, but yes, yes,
Yeah,
that could be a thing that happens.
yeah, yeah.
Um, But yeah, so for you, 3.5, I would give it a 3, I think. I think this is a movie that on a rewatch you might not enjoy as many times, but that first time will be fun enough. There I thought Vanessa Kirby and the guy who played and Joseph Quinn who played the Johnny Storm gave the best performances in the movie. Um, I really liked like the set design, just like the world design. It was just something refreshing to see for a Marvel movie.
Hmm.
Uh, just something, anything different.
At least something visually distinct.
Something visually distinctive, but yeah, it felt a little rushed. It felt like we were missing like 15 minutes of this movie, and like Marvel. 2 hour 10 runtime is not going to scare audiences off. It's the 250 that's going to scare audiences off. They don't want to sit through that for, an introductory movie. But all in all, still a pretty good time. I give it a 3 out of 5. And now we will dive into spoilers.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Ordinary family
Four astronauts go up into space and come back forever changed.
will become fantastic on July 25th.
Your planet is marked for death.
We will protect you.
As a family.
Their greatest strength
Johnny, quit screwing around!
is each other.
I tell you how to drive the ship. Don't tell me how to kill sexy aliens.
Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four. Get tickets now.
I love that little TV spot when I was like looking them up because there's like 30 of them. And I was like, man, that one feels like it's straight out of the 2000s. Like that's a TV spot right
Especially
there.
with that song.
Oh yeah, with the Sam and Dave, yeah.
Yeah.
Hold down,
Yeah.
I'm come. So spoilers. So the Fantastic Four, uh, Reed Richards and Sue Storm are married. They get pregnant, and Galactus wants their child, or otherwise he's going to eat their world. That is like the general plot overview of this, and they reject that, obviously. So the plan is to subject it from that.
Mm.
Um, we also see the Silver Surfer in this, who is played by Julia Garner, who was on Ozark. Like I thought she was really good in this movie in that role. I think when we were alluding to things before, that was the part where we felt like, man, we're just missing like a chunk of this movie dealing with this.
Mm.
What do you
It
think?
felt like in terms of like, yeah, like you said, early Marvel villain problems were like it felt like the first like few years of the MCU, outside of like Loki and maybe one or two others, none of the villains felt developed. It felt like they were just like kind of pushed to the wayside and just like, oh, just generic villains. We had actors like Christopher Eccleston playing like a villain in Thor 2, and yet like it's the most forgettable part in that whole movie. Where it's like you have these great guys, and you have a guy like Ralph Ineson, he's a good actor. Galactus I thought was good, was like fun and menacing, but I felt like he could have been expanded more. Even Silver Surfer, I felt like was just like kind of forgotten about for like a little stretch of the movie.
For like the whole like so to get into the spoiler of the ending of the movie, so the Silver Surfer is Galactus's servant. She sacrificed her life to become his servant to save her planet and mark all these other planets for death or whatever. Um, Johnny Storm has a crush on her because obviously he does. It's a, as the trailer says, sexy alien lady.
Yeah,
And he cracks through these messages that had been sent from her home planet to Earth through words that she said. And we kind of get this, that reveal of that story. She storms off angrily, and then she pushes Galactus back into the portal like she's gone from that moment until she saves the day at the end of the movie.
yeah,
And it was like, oh, we're missing something here that would make her like we understand why, but we're missing like that moment of clarity for her as to why she might then go back on her master, her
yeah.
servant. And
And it is funny how they quickly gloss over her origin story, and they have like a one quick thing of Julia Gardner about all the Silver Surfer CGI stuff. Where it's like, yeah, she was normal looking. Like, here's what she looks like without the makeup on.
yeah, it's Julia Garner, but on a beach on an alien planet. We changed the cinematography in this, so it's clearly a different planet.
Yeah.
Um, I
So
thought so like was there anything else missing for you in
I
this?
think that from the jump that I said this in the non-spoiler section, but I felt like Galactus was like too big of a threat for this type of movie. If you're doing the origin thing, I think this could have started smaller. Like the beginning of the movie, I did like how they quickly went over the origin story and how they did an exposition dump with like the TV host from the
Yeah,
60s.
yeah, they were doing
Uh,
the
but what I did hate was that they just quickly went over five different adventures real quick. That was just like
and they all
this.
looked a lot more interesting than the adventure we got.
Yeah, yeah, and that's part of the thing I was thinking. And like, I would have loved if the beginning of the movie still had that exposition dump, but instead of like jump cutting to like a montage of different shit, just focused on like maybe let's have like 10 minutes of just like Mole Man, for example, of them fighting off Mole Man and like them coming in, and then you get to see them all use their powers, see how Mr. Fantastic like takes out a bunch of guys using like a fucking like I don't know stretchy like punch kind of thing, or
Yeah,
like
like the most we get of Mr. Incredible's power, or there we go.
yeah, Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic's powers. Wow, that really was a Fantastic Four ripoff, huh? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, wow. But we'll give the daughter Mrs. Incredible's powers, and we'll give the mom Sue Storm's powers, and we're all good.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I think the stakes might have been too high, but I like that it was tied into their child and
Mhm.
made it personal for them. Like I thought like one of the best moments in the movie was Stu Storm's monologue when they come back from space and they're getting blastized on TV after, they spend the first 20 minutes being like, the Fantastic Fours are the protectors of our universe. Like, we love them, we adore them, they are great, they're a part of our community, blah, blah, blah. And then they come back and it's like a bunch of people on the TV talking about how selfish can you be to not just give up your baby and protect us? And I like Vanessa Kirby's monologue there was very like warm and meaningful and
Well, I think that obviously there's going to be a ton of comparisons to Superman, which came out earlier this month, and that had a similar story of like Superman like find out something that like oh having the public turn against him without spoiling
which
that.
which almost
But
seems like a commentary on like superhero movies themselves and like Marvel itself. Like you had all these fans and then they lost good faith and now they're trying to rebuild that faith back up.
yeah, but I feel like Superman handled that kind of plot point a little bit better and like a little more grace, whereas this felt very rushed upon. Where I felt like it was only given like 5 minutes, and then Sue Storm gives that speech and immediately is just like everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we love her." It's like I would like if there was a little more nuance, if like some people still didn't trust them or something like that. If there still was a little
Yeah,
glow.
yeah, it's one of those things in a movie like this, you're just never gonna get that. I feel like
I feel like Superman had more nuance out to it in terms of
yeah,
that.
it did. I mean, it's as much nuance as the superhero genre can get. Like my main thing was I just had more fun watching Superman than I did
Same.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And, like I would go and revisit Superman, where this one I think I will leave on the island of I watched it once, it was fine, and probably never touch it again.
Mhm.
Um, Pedro Pascal. I think we need to talk about him. I
Well,
know
first
what.
of all, it's insane. I just had to touch upon the run he's been having this year, and probably like the last like few years. But like uh, the fact that this is his third movie in the span of a month that's opened up as him as the lead. Like we have Materialist that came out last year, which was like an indie
He he
rom
he was he
drama.
was he was like he was the third lead in that, but he was a
But
big
still, yeah,
big
still a
part
big
of it.
part of it.
Yeah.
Then he had Eddington, which came out like a week ago, which is already out of theaters practically, which is annoying. The new Ari Aster movie. And he was
Yeah,
the
I just haven't had time to go see that, but I would love to actually see that in a theater.
and then he has Last of Us, which like he obviously he was only like the first couple episodes, but still a big part of that show. And now he has Fantastic Four. It's like this is like almost he's having almost like a Jim Carrey type run where he's like blowing
He's
up.
the
When Jim
best.
Carrey had that 94,
He's got
95.
the best agent, and there's been a lot of like blowback against him, especially with like Vanessa Kirby. And I'm not one to speculate on his private life. It's not my business, but like all I see is like people who are married in a movie trying to sell the movie
Mhm.
in interviews, and allegedly it was sanctioned by some PR firm, like some conservative group, put out to put a hit group against, like put a campaign against Pedro Pascal because like the week leading up to this movie, it was a lot of hate towards Pedro Pascal and
Yeah.
like the way he's
It felt
touching Vanessa
manufactured.
Kirby and like I was just like, all right, God, like what are we doing here? Like what's going on?
Mhm.
It's fine. He's overexposed, but granted, I've never really read the Fantastic Four, but he it, he just didn't seem to leave Pedro Pascal to me in this. He didn't ever become Reed Richards.
Yeah, it's kind of the problem of like casting like a major movie star, whereas Marvel in the past, like the Tarantino comment when you see like Thor on screen, like
Yeah,
you don't think Chris Hemsworth the movie star, you think, oh, that's Thor. Whereas Pedro Pascal is one of the cases of them casting a guy who already had an established screen persona, already was blowing up before this.
and he's just been in
But
a lot of like nerdy stuff,
yeah,
right? Like, he got his big break was Game of Thrones when he was Prince Oberyn. Like that was because he had been working like for a decade before that,
he was
just
on
doing
like Buffy as like a guest star once, like
yeah,
back in
he
the
was doing a
2000s.
lot of bit stuff,
Yeah.
and then he got Prince Oberyn, then he was on Narcos, then he did a bunch of stuff in the 2010s, and then it just felt like in 2020 it was determined he was going to be the guy. Like he was in Wonder Woman 84, where he got to camp it up a little bit more. He's
But last, what's so funny about that movie, real quick, is that he was unshaven. He was clean shaven for that movie, and he said that like after that movie, he's like, I'm never being clean shaven again. Like unless like they like forced me to do it for the role, I just hated how I looked clean shaven. And so for the point of Mr. Fantastic, I mean, Mr. Fantastic is a character that does not have a mustache, but it's like you cast Pedro Pascal, the mustache has to
He's
come
got
with
it. He's got enough clout now that he can be like, okay, cool. My interpretation of this character does. I mean, okay, let's see. Fantastic Four, Materialist, Last of Us, Eddington. He's in an AirPods commercial. Then he was in Gladiator 2, The Wild Robot,
it.
Drive Away Dolls, The Uninvited, Freaky Tales, Strange, and that's just 2020. That's up to through 2024, through last year. Like the guy has been kind of thrown in everybody's face. Like he's been the Mandalorian, right? Like
Yeah.
he's a little bit unavoidable, and I think it's a little wearing on audiences. I think they would have. I think they're like Fantastic Four has to work for us because it is in the lore of like comic books. It's one of the biggest comics that's ever come out. It
I
just has
mean, they
never.
were Marvel's first big thing.
Yeah.
That was like the first like Stan Lee creation, but even before Spider-Man and all that. I'm a big comics guy, but I never really got deep into the Fantastic Four. The only thing I have is the Fantastic Four Ultimate, which I read when I was a kid. I have like a couple issues of that, but they're never like a comic that I was like really big on that I really had to get there. But it always pop up in like crossovers and stuff like that. And for Pedro Pascal's performance as Reed Richards is very like a neurotic character from what I gathered from all the comics, and I think he did that well. I think that this character, I mean, the thing about Pedro Pascal is this felt different than his other characters. I mean, he definitely gave like a different performance than like Mandalorian, than like fucking the guy from Wonder Woman, even
Oh
Joel from
yeah.
Last of Us. I mean, he's a good actor, and the fact that this doesn't feel like like the same guy over and over again, like your shitty. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he gives the same performance in every movie, kind of thing.
It's a different performance. I just don't think he's like neurotic, anxiety-ridden science geek. I just don't see Pedro Pascal. Like he's too cool of a guy to be Reed Richards.
Well,
Um,
sometimes like there's that one scene with him and Vanessa Kirby where they're talking about how he was thinking about the logical way to go about this, where it's like, yeah, it would be logical for us to give up our kid, and then he has that Vanessa Kirby has the conversation with him. It's like that's how your brain thinks. It's like, oh, like you don't understand this. How it is this, and it definitely felt a little off from
yeah,
him. But other than him, I think Vanessa Kirby was well cast. I think she was
she
great.
was great. She was the best. She was the best one in the movie, I thought.
Yeah. And it was interesting to see like that what's his name? Joseph Quinn as Human Torch. That he wasn't the like kind of hot shot like type Chris Evans type.
No, he was also like it's probably I don't know from the comics, but it seems probably a little bit more comic accurate versus like the Fantastic for the Chris Evans one where
Um
he
Well, it's
like
the thing of the 2000s that like I think that the shitty Tim Story ones was more on like the more modern comics of like the Ultimate Comics I was just talking about, whereas this definitely feels more indebted to Stan Lee Silver Age classic like Fantastic Four run. In fact, they have like a quick montage of like I don't know if you ever seen the first cover ever of Fantastic Four where like they're fighting like the giant monster coming out of
I'm
the pit.
sure I've seen it at some point, but I don't. It
Yeah,
doesn't ring a
well,
bell.
they quickly like made a homage to that issue within the movie where like a
In the
giant
movie
monster,
as a shot.
yeah, where like we see in the opening montage. Let me see, Fantastic Four issue one.
I got it right here.
Yeah,
975 bucks on eBay. That's CGC 8. That's better than I thought it would have been. Yeah, with the mod. Okay, yeah, I see it here.
yeah. So in that case, I remember like I used to read like the Stanley Spider-Man comics, and whenever a Human Torch would show up, he wasn't really a hot shot. He was just more just like kind of like a gee Willikers, like oh god, like oh here we go, and like everything like that. He was definitely like, cool, but that era of cool was different than being like a cocky asshole. That wasn't what Human Torch felt like at
It's
the time.
more if you hit on women back then, you were more Don Draper and less like Chris Evans
Yeah.
sexually
Well, also,
harassing a nurse and then taking her skiing in the Swiss Alps and then magically transporting to New York.
yeah,
When Ben Grimm runs away from the hospital, it's like what is going
it's a
what's going on in this movie?
well, it's one thing also that like with the comparison to Superman that like Marvel is just so afraid to have any like sexual relationship in their fucking movies. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, like they need to have a fucking like full on Ben Grimm like fucks Natasha Leone or something like that. I'm saying like in Superman, we had that one scene of like Clark and Lois making out in their fucking apartment, and like the one scene at the end when them making out, like flying around, and we didn't see anything like that with like. We didn't have like a kiss between Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm, a married couple, which is
We
just
did,
like
we had one.
it was very brief. It wasn't memorable if there was one. In a way that like they're obviously like I don't need to see like all the stuff, but I need to see more of a romance in a way where it's just like they felt so afraid to even have just a simple kiss in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, you understand why, right?
Yeah.
I for our audience that might not know, I will let you know right now. Okay, well, it didn't say you're watching Disney Channel, even though it said that's what it was going to say in the video, but that was Disney Channel music there.
Literally, yeah, exactly. It was just like the thing where like, we could have just had like one moment of like sensuality where it's just like this is a part of the human experience.
I mean, like I don't like necessarily need it in a comic book movie, but like just yeah, like them being like to get like other than the movie dictating that he got her pregnant, like it's not really clear that they're married, other than that they share this son together.
Yeah.
One other complaint I have with this movie was when the baby is born in space, he is CGI for a little bit,
Hmm.
and it looks bad. And then the thing
I
is
think
holding
that's
him, and it's CGI, and it looks bad.
I think it's a hard way to get around it. I mean, with babies, I mean, it's
I'm
bad.
sure there's restrictions on it or whatever. Like they can't just be throwing a baby around, obviously, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I was just looking on it and I was just like, man, is that baby CG? Also, one other thing, we had four teenage girls sitting behind us and they talked through the entire movie
Oh God.
up until at the very end where the baby's special power is life or something or whatever, he brings Vanessa Kirby back to life. And like the theater is pitch quiet, and you just hear this girl go, "I knew it!" And then just like giggling, like, "Hey!" And then she stopped talking for the last 5 minutes of the movie because everyone heard that one. Um, I was really close to having my George Costanza moment. Like, I really wanted to just get up, but then I'm like, do I want to be that guy? Like, do I?
Like, first of
Am
all, how much do I care about
I like to
Fantastic Four?
I like to think I'm young at heart, but do I want to be this person? Do I want to be the guy yelling at teenagers to
Oh,
shut
dude,
up
it's
during
also a thing
meetings?
when like you're out with your girlfriend and you're like, do I want to be this aggressive asshole in front of my girlfriend?
Oh
Because like,
no, she was and she is very not a confrontational person at all. And she was like, I was so close to him. I was so close to getting up and telling these people to shut up. Because it wasn't even just like a whisper. It was like they
oh,
were talking and giggling through the whole movie.
yeah, oh God, it's awful. I mean, the audiences are getting worse. Thankfully, no complaints of my Fantastic Four screening. It was perfect. Audience, no, I didn't even see a phone go up, which is shocking. But like, I
Their
remember
phone all
last month.
one of their phones also went off during the movie.
Oh God, fuck that. I remember like last month I went to go see Megan 2.0, mediocre movie, but I saw it opening night, with my friends and my girlfriend. And this couple that this like daughter and her mom sat right next to me the whole movie. And they're talking the whole time and like at like a almost like a normal room volume. And at a certain point I was like, fuck this. I started shushing them. And then after I shushed them a few times and they heard it, the mom said, if you shush me one more time, I'm gonna smack the shit out of you. I was like, what the fuck?
You should have been like, bet,
Yeah, like bet. At that point, they
bet,
stopped. They
hit me.
stopped,
Go
thankfully.
go ahead and hit me.
Yeah, I was like, fucking try me. So, but yeah, in general, it just seems like it's a more and more worse thing. Like I had a guy during my 28 years later screening that constantly ended up opening Instagram, and every single time he did that, I would clear my throat very loud and aggressively to fucking make a point.
I remember when we saw the Batman when that came out, and it was like the exclusive, like early because
And
it
man, yeah.
was early on the podcast, so we just did it as an episode, and there was a kid guy sitting next to me on Instagram the whole time, and I'm just like, you're not even at like a screening like a month later that you were dragged to. Like you got this ticket in a sold out theater. Why are you on your phone?
You and
Uh,
I both, I think, said, "Dude, are you serious?"
yeah, it was bad. I try not to be addicted. Like if somebody's on their phone on the other side of the theater, it doesn't, especially in like I saw it in IMAX. Like if it's in a big screen on IMAX and it's on the other side of the theater, I don't care. But if you're doing it right next to me, it's very bothersome.
Yeah.
Um,
So back to the movie real quick. So there's also the problem with Marvel these days that Marvel is very much not a director-driven type
No,
franchise.
no.
And this is why I think I'm starting to pivot more towards DC because it feels like James Gunn wants to have directors be more in control of the projects individually. And
You mean less concerned about like a connected universe and just more about like, oh, like if the movie's good, like then the universe does well. It doesn't all
yeah,
have to
well,
be
and
these
also like he doesn't need a shared tone for every movie. Where he like James Gunn saying like right now that like I'm gonna do a Clayface movie next, and that Clayface movie's not gonna feel like Superman. That's gonna feel like a horror movie, and that perfect. But like this
and they're
guy that
doing
they
it
hired,
smart too because it's like a $40 million budget or something, or
yeah,
scheduled 40 million. Like, oh, perfect. Like we'll take a superhero movie, make it $40 million. Maybe it makes $300 million. We make a lot of money off of our small little like horror.
yeah. Well, like for Marvel too, like I know that they're doing like on TV like the street level hero stuff with Daredevil, and Daredevil is good. I like the new season of Daredevil, but I feel like why don't we have also like for Marvel like a $30 million, I don't know, let's say like Luke Cage or something like that movie, where it's just him fighting like fucking gangsters, but it feels like I don't know, like
A
in the
kung fu
vein of
movie.
like a random like Jean-Claude Van Damme action movie or something like
Yeah,
that.
just
I
something ridiculous. Just do something. Just make a '90s action movie with one of these guys, and like just mix it up. Because yeah, it does. It just feels like another Marvel movie, man. And like
yeah,
it's such a
as
low.
much as like the
Like I,
60s.
I think my review of this would be lower if it came out in 2014 than it is now, just because it's like almost refreshing that they went back to what worked beforehand with this,
Mhm.
and like is so general and formulaic that I was like, okay, cool, good. You guys did it. You didn't completely mess this one up.
Yeah, where it's like outside maybe Sam Raimi and I guess Chloe Zhao is also like a big director, but you know, the last like 5 years for Marvel, it's just been like, all right, whatever. Like they just do this random thing. I mean, you have Taika Waititi, but at the same point though, like the guy
He
who directed this
talk
Fantastic
about
Four
a
movie,
fading star. I was
yeah,
so excited for him post Jojo Rabbit, and then he just tanked his career.
seriously,
Crazy.
yeah, awful. But this guy who directed the new Fantastic Four movie, his name's Matt Shankman, and he his first movie was 10 years ago, some random indie movie called Cut Bank, and he's mostly known for directing Game of Thrones, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, um,
Yeah,
and
so
like
like a TV,
sitcoms,
so he's they're just trying to find another Russo brothers.
yeah, and like WandaVision and stuff like that. So like the guy did well, but at the end of the day, when you get down to like the aesthetic and stuff like that, yeah, I like the aesthetic, but it was just set dressing.
But directing TV and directing films are two different things. Like,
And yeah, and like when I think of this movie, there's nothing that really stood out for me direction wise. Like
no, it never does with Marvel movies.
yeah, very rare unless you have like Sam Raimi and they
They
let him
didn't even, and
have
I
a
remember
brief
what I
blip.
remember from that movie was they like let him go like 20% into Sam Raimi
Yeah,
territory. It just didn't feel
literally.
like a Sam Raimi movie. It felt like they took flares of it and
Mhm.
put it like let him do like 20% of what he wanted to do with the movie, and it would have been probably a much better movie if they let him do his thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, listen, you've listened to this whole thing, so hopefully you have seen the movie. If you still haven't, I hope we didn't completely scare it off from you. It's fun. I don't know, it's a fun if you got 2 hours to kill, like that's
yeah, it's
probably
fun.
my recommendation of
And
this.
one thing I want to mention before we end it was cool seeing Silver Surfer this time. I remember like the movie 20 years ago was shitty with Silver Surfer, but this time when we actually see a Silver Surfer like actually surfing through like the lava and stuff like that, it was a cool little comic book action moment where I was like, oh, they're making an actual surfer. So that was something for me.
My favorite thing, my last thing here has nothing to do with the movie, but my favorite person to disrupt a movie in the audience was when we went and saw Logan, and we went for like a 10 o'clock screening or whatever, and there was a guy who just fell asleep like 20 minutes in, and we could just hear him snoring every now and then, and I was like, you know what, I can't even get mad at that one. He went to go see a movie, but he was just a bit too tired. I know, Tommy, you can respect that out of all people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our mini. Let us know on our socials, at Seen It Pod. Everywhere else, where are we on Blue Sky, Tommy?
Podscenit.bluesky.social. Leave us a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah,
Helps us out, helps us grow the show. We
just
have a
let us
great
know.
August coming up. Sunset Boulevard, I think, is next.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited for that one. And just let us know how you enjoyed this and if it's something worth doing. Maybe we put out some community polls or whatever, and of releases coming out every month, and we determine that way too. Because I don't need this to just become comic book movie half hour every month. But this turned out to be comic book movie month, so it is what it is. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. We will see you next time.